at some point we are going to have to do a whole show about how good this show sounds.
Hey everybody, welcome to Downballot. We do the show almost every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Pacific right here on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/Echoplex Media. Also like simulcasting to other places that nobody ever watched the fucking show, and that's fine with me. Just hang out here on Twitch. This is also the flagship podcast of accidentally printing out last week's docket and having to run to the printer with a couple minutes before the show starts to get a proper printout of what we're talking about this week. You can support this project at echoplexmedia.com. Just click the support tab. You can find your favorite way to support it. I prefer memberships through eplex.store, but you can make your own decisions over there. I'm producer Dave, and you can find me on Grindr. You with the good attitude. Who are you, and what's going on?
Yo, what's up? Thumbs up. This is the Councilman. You can find me in the club. You can also find me on the road to excess and in the House of Wisdom. I'm coming to you live here with producer Dave. So excited to be here. We're going to have a lovely docket this week of local derp to discuss here on the 9th best local news podcast in California, according to some dude. And we can jump right into it. But unless there's any show notes you need to bring up about public comment, which is coming up right afterwards.
Oh, yeah. Actually, for people on the pod, you might want to check out the member show this week. I might make it a freebie, actually. There's a town that the Queen of Canada, I don't know if people know about the Queen of Canada, Romana Didulo. She believes that she is the crown queen of Canada. Well, she went to a town and set up like a compound, and they had a town hall meeting about it, and that's going to be what we're going to cover during public comments.
Joyous.
Oh, it's cooked, I'm sure. Shout out to the Mayor McCheese for sending that my way. The Mayor McCheese covers all the nonsense happening up in Canada, and I do appreciate that. So,
and the Mayor McCheese is an actual mayor, right? Not just an imagined queen.
The mayor, that's the mayor of McCheese. I don't know, a fucking dope Twitch streamer that I really need to have on for conspiracy bingo, actually, because the mayor has a fine collection of Canadian nonsense for people to check out on their channel.
We could have a Big Mac with them and discuss.
Yeah. Oh, I haven't had McDonald's in a while. That's because it's on the other side of the freeway, and that shit may as well not exist.
I thought you were going to say it's because the burgers taste like cardboard and the fries are overrated, but maybe that's just me.
I mean, that too, but mostly
I'm projecting.
Mostly it's just on the other side of Highway 880 from me, and like anything over there, unless it's real good, it may as well not exist, because I don't like risking life and limb on my bicycle going over a fucking freeway overpass.
Not to mention like the landfill, right? That's pretty much landfill is where all that stuff is, west of 880.
I don't live in that part of town, but sure.
There you go. Anyway, but yeah, don't venture across the freeway. It's dangerous.
Yeah, it's like instead of the wrong side of the tracks, it's just that you might die on the freeway overpass.
Correct.
Because people haul ass getting onto 880 right there, dude. I'm telling you.
Ironically, people hauling ass to get on the freeway, not just while they're on the freeway.
Anyway, what do we got for leading off this week?
So we were just about to get into this last week because in the very crazy, very unprecedented Congressional District 16 race here locally, where we had a tie for second place and thus 3 candidates advancing to the open runoff. We mentioned live on Downballot last week that there had been a couple requests for a recount, one in each county that the district overlaps. And that has happened. So they're about to start, or they have started today, I should say, sorting ballots and preparing for a recount. And our local news, ABC7, is going to tell us all about what's going on right now, who requested the recount, who might be paying for it, and what comes next.
Now to the South Bay, where a recount started today in the Silicon Valley congressional race that ended in a tie.
Right now, 3 candidates are moving on to the general election unless the recount finds different results.
ABC 7 News reporter Zach Fuentes got a look at the start of the recount process.
Recount procedures are underway at the Santa Clara County Registrar of Voters office.
Right here behind us, we have 40 plus pallets of ballots from all the various
pallets of ballots
within Congressional District 16.
The district is made up of Santa Clara.
Pallets of ballots was actually the name we would have used if not for Downballot on this show.
Absolutely. That was one of the discussed options. I think it got voted down early on, but it might make a return.
Mateo counties, former San Jose Mayor Sam Liccardo secured a spot on November's ballot, but second place is tied between Assemblyman Evan Lowe and Santa Clara County Supervisor Joe Simidian.
2 candidates tie exactly for second place. I mean, this has never happened before.
Initially, 2 people requested a recount. The Santa Clara County Registrar's Office confirmed, though, that Dan Stedjink, the person who requested the recount in San Mateo County, withdrew his request. That left Jonathan Padilla, who requested it in Santa Clara County. According to his LinkedIn profile, he was a policy and finance director for Liccardo's 2014 San Jose mayoral campaign. He requested the recount on behalf of Lowe. Lowe's campaign said they are not connected with him, insisting Padilla is acting on behalf of Liccardo's campaign. Liccardo's team also has not claimed a current association with Padilla. It's not known how Padilla is financing the cost of the recount, but the registrar's office pays by 10 each morning to pay the day's deposit.
The cost approximately $16,000 a day. Again, that's an estimate based on counting the ballots only. If the requester would like to see additional materials, it would incur additional labor and time for us to pull those things, which would increase the cost and the deadline as well.
Despite questions from Lowe's campaign about the law regarding recount refunds, Santa Clara County maintains that there is a possibility Padilla could be paid back.
Let's say if one of the candidates we find wins and the requester is requesting the recount on behalf of that winning candidate, then the requester would then receive their money back.
We reached out to San Mateo County to find out where it is in the recount process and have not heard back. Santa Clara County estimates their process to take 1 to 2 weeks to finish. In Santa Clara County, Zach Fuentes, ABC 7 News.
What the fuck?
Yes. What the fuck, indeed, on so many levels. Any thoughts that you have initially off the news hit?
I mean, I jokingly said it's Peter Thiel, but that's just who I blame for everything, right? This person used to work for Licardo. Also, their profile was like, I forget what it said, but it just said Ghoul, like under their name on their fucking profile, right?
Yeah, Jonathan's an interesting case. He's a product of my alma mater in San Jose, Bellarmine College Prep, which has produced Sam Licardo, Matt Mahan, and Tom McHenry, and God knows how many other white men that have had a leadership position in San Jose and have taken us down one road or the other on their crusades. Jonathan quite obviously is doing this on behalf of Sam Licardo. There's no doubt in my mind that that's happening. And in fact, if were I Sam Licardo's consultant or campaign advisor or close advisor, I would be advising him to arrange something like this as well, arrange for a recount. Simply because it's just going to benefit him. I think, as we've discussed, it would benefit him to run against one or the other of those two candidates. I don't know that he thinks that Evan is the more, beatable candidate, because they've asked Jonathan to file the recount request on Evan's behalf, thinking that Evan would win, and then therefore they would get their money back. Although I'll mention something about that in a second. But he quite obviously is doing this for Sam. And absolutely did not coordinate with Evan's campaign nor Joe's campaign. I think, as we talked about again last week and before, neither Evan Lowe or Joe Simitian want anything to do with a recount, right? They're both in at that point, right? And I think they can both benefit from a three-way race. So this is quite obviously coming from one camp. The question is, how is it being financed? Well, obviously, some Peter Thiel, who might be a friend of Sam, people like that, are funneling money to Jonathan somehow. Because I don't know that he has this kind of money just sitting around like petty cash. But I don't know as much as, how much he has to disclose, right? When you're a candidate in a campaign, they have to disclose the money they're raising from who, right? And how much. I don't know that the same responsibility or obligation applies here. Be very interesting to find out. But I don't think he can do this himself either. Anyway, long story short, he files this on behalf of Evan Lowe. If Evan Lowe were to win this recount, win the recount, quote unquote, that would basically mean he ends up with more votes than Joe in the second count. Evan Lowe's position fundamentally hasn't changed. He is still in the runoff. He was in the runoff before the recount. He's in the runoff after the recount, right? So really, I don't see how Jonathan or his camp could expect to be reimbursed simply because the candidate that they're filing a recount for, their situation hasn't fundamentally changed, right? They haven't won or lost. And if Joe were to come out on top, then they certainly aren't going to get their money back. So that's one reason why this was originally requested as a hand recount, which is much more pricey, and has been shifted or was shifted prior to the start of the recount to an electronic recount, a machine recount. So I think that's another clear indication that they think they might have screwed up by going this route, and they're now probably just praying that it's Evan, so that they can at least have a case to get reimbursed. But I think there's a very good case that they shouldn't get reimbursed in any way.
No, I don't, because they're not even a party to the election. They're just like
that's also true.
like a rubbernecker kind of.
Yeah, well, that's also true. Jonathan does not live in the district. Now, Sam Licardo doesn't live in the district either. And he could end up being the Congress member. So the rules in federal races are just really sketchy to begin with. They overlap multiple counties, and counties have each county has their own rules and regulations, right? And their own review processes. So yeah, it's a mess. And we're not going to know the answer for at least a couple weeks, because they've said that just sorting out the ballots from this district, right, that have all come in, is going to take at least a week to 10 days of labor, just sorting those precincts out. So out of the pallets of ballots.
What a fucking mess.
Yes, our electoral system. I think it's good that we have paper ballots. I think it's good that we all have a chance to just get a ballot at our house and mail it in. But it takes time to unravel it all if something like this happens. The good news is this doesn't really happen very often, and recounts really aren't going to make much difference outside of maybe a 12 vote margin. I've heard 12 to 20 vote margin. But in this case, I think you can absolutely expect something to change and for one candidate to end up with more votes than the other at the end of the process, or for ballots to flip and numbers to flip and they end up tied anyway, one or the other. But I do think this will flip at least one vote and put Evan and or Joe in the runoff. And it's unfortunate or fortunate depending on how you look at it and which candidate you are.
What? I don't know, man. This seems sketch. I think this is a bad look for Sam Liccardo, because everybody knows this is his doing. Like,
yes.
And he's saying that it's not. Like,
yeah, and as you would, right? It's just politics. What is the line in The Godfather? It's just business. This isn't personal, Sonny. It's just business, right? It's just business.
But it's bad business. The same stuff.
Well, it's bad business, and it's disingenuous, and it's unethical, and it's it's all those things, right? It's legal, but it's completely outside the pale or above the pale, and it's going to be up to whatever. And I think we also talked about this last week. It's going to be up to whichever candidate does not get in, working with the candidate who does get in to remind the voters about this, right, and to remind them what is going, that an outsider, an interloper who doesn't even live in the district is running to be their Congress member and is also engaging in these tactics that are really trying to subvert democracy. Anyway, but the sad thing is that the statements Sam has issued, which have been parroted now by the Mercury News editorial board, they're really glad to see democracy in action, right? They just want to make sure they're really glad to see that every vote is going to be counted and that we're taking this very seriously. Easy for you to say, bro, but that's been his statement so far. And the Mercury News editorial board, like I said, is completely parroting it and legitimizing this sham, which is what it is. It's a sham. It's a political sham.
Well,
it's unfortunate. It's
there could be any number of I don't understand why somebody who's not a party to the election can do this.
I don't either. I don't understand. I also don't understand why someone who doesn't live in a congressional district can represent that district. I don't know if I've shared the tale of, I believe it was Tom McClintock, who was a Republican Congress member who represented, state of Jefferson, Northern California, portions of it. And was living all along in Thousand Oaks, which is...
We got a good question from the chat, too. Just like who benefits from this delay or any kind of delay? And the answer is obviously Sam Liccardo.
Well, absolutely. The delay, and also by doing this, you're forcing both Lowe's campaign and Simidian's campaign to get their campaign, keep their campaign teams on the payroll. When they could be, taking a hiatus have to get lawyers on the payroll to observe and advise on this, right? People who know much more about the law than you or I, right? Or even Evan or Joe. So they're going to have to spend their own hundreds of thousands of dollars just to defend themselves and make sure that that they have every opportunity to get into this runoff, because someone it's more likely is going to end up one of them. So they have to spend all this money now and raise more money from their base, and that just means that they're going to have less money they'll be able to raise, going forward for the runoff election, to spend in the runoff election. They'll have less money to spend, less ability to reach out to voters, which is the most important factor, right? So it's going to be a hit to them as well. And if Sam has found, a Peter Thiel or another sugar daddy out there who wants to finance this, then he's got it made in the shade. Because I do think that he'll throw a bunch of lawyers out there who will say, yeah, they absolutely, it had nothing to do with this, and this guy did it independently, but also, he should be reimbursed because Evan made it and Joe didn't, right?
Do you think he filed on behalf of Evan Lowe because maybe they have some inkling that it's going to go that way, or was it like a coin toss?
I mean, yeah, I would have to guess. I mean, I don't see how you make that kind of call because it's such a substantial chunk of change too, for someone to have to spend, right? I don't know, but and you're also thinking about who you might want to face, I guess. Yeah, I couldn't tell you why they did it this way. Sometimes they don't make any sense, right? Sometimes we give people too much credit. Sometimes because we just don't see this a whole lot, especially in San Jose, right? This kind of political machination. When people are shady enough and bold enough to do this pull this kind of shit, I think we give them too much credit sometimes for being smarter than they are, right? I think they do make missteps. I think they do leap before they look. And I say that because I know Jonathan, and I know people like Jonathan, and I've known Sam for a long time, and I know people like Sam, and that's just how that's how they operate. There's a very Bellarmine through line to this. Honestly, this sort of sense of hubris, like we can just pull anything we want, and no one's gonna call us on it because we're doing the right thing.
Right, we're the upper crust of the Silicon Valley.
Right. People can poo-poo our ethics and and say that this is shady. But at the end of the day, we're doing this for the right reasons because we know what we're doing. We're going to be better governors and better Congress members and better mayors than the other person. We know better than them. Right. So we're doing this for the right reasons. And that's very arrogant and very prideful. And it's very much a trait I've seen in fellow alums of our high school. I have seen just as many, and not, because this is not to impugn my high school at all. Actually, I really enjoyed my time there. I absorbed very good community-driven values there. The men for others mentality, which is what they try to espouse there. I absorbed that a lot, and these guys obviously did not.
Well, it's a private school, and some of the kids there are just like privileged kids, and their privilege.
Oh, hell yeah!
That this all makes sense. I just wish that like this was such that you not only had to have been a party to the election, but you have to have been one of the people that tied to even call for you know what I'm saying? Like it's
It should be an official. It should be some sort of official. Yeah, it should be some sort of. It should really only be up to the candidates. Honestly, I don't. I understand every vote matters. Obviously, right? Every vote counts. Every voter matters. But I don't see how anyone but the candidates have the standing to ask for a recount. And especially if someone has to ask for it on behalf of or at the to support one candidate or the other, and they don't have to even get the blessing of or
or paperwork
the consent, consent form from that candidate. That just seems ridiculous. Now, to be honest, enough lawyers looked at this already. I'm sure that it's legit. So if that's true, I think you can almost guarantee you're going to see a push to change that law in California, wherever it sits in the California state legislature or locally here in the counties. But yeah, that's silly. That's silly season. So that's going to, if it's doesn't change soon, there's going to be a movement to change it very, very soon. Because this case, and this race are getting a lot of publicity. They're getting a lot of coverage. So I don't see how that doesn't become an issue with someone at some point as a policy change.
Like when I found out it was somebody, like when I watched that, because I don't watch stuff beforehand, I was like, what the fuck? Like the immediate thing. And then I saw the thing under there. I was like, oh shit, under his name. I was like, that says ghoul.
Yeah. He's Jonathan has a very, has a chip on his shoulder that's about as big as Gibraltar. And that sort of, it's like that self-deprecating kind of like, I'm known as everyone thinks I'm a ghoul, but I'm really doing I'm really one of the good guys. I'm a patriot. That's kind of his mentality. He's been put down upon, so therefore, he
Even if you allow citizens, shouldn't the citizen have to live in the fucking district where it happened? Like, shouldn't their ballot be from the fucking district where the election happened? Like,
shouldn't you have to live in the district to represent the district, right? Like, that comes back to it. Because if that's not true, then I can understand why they will let just any jackass who lives anywhere call for the recount. But yeah, unless they force the Congress member to actually live in the district, right? I don't know if there's anything you can do to make an argument that's going to compel people around that particular piece. I do think that there should be some sort of law that says only the candidates have standing to call for a recount.
Right. And I mean,
or they have to give consent.
Right. I mean, yeah. This is fucking stupid. If if somebody would have told me it wasn't Liccardo, I would have been like, oh, it's that guy that finished fourth, who I think is a spy. I forget his name now. I would have thought it would have been him.
And he has the money independently to pay for this kind of thing, right? He probably
they should
has
make
the money
him pay for it anyway. Fuck it.
Maybe he is. Maybe Sam. Hey, maybe Sam is struck some sort of deal because that guy's out, right? And I think that his voter base, he had some votes. Profiles a lot like Sam's voter base, right? So it would not surprise me. You might be on something here. It would not surprise me that either he or one of his benefactors.
I'm not even wearing the tinfoil hat tonight.
I know, right? You're just blazing tonight. This is great. We're on fire.
We're cooking. We're cooking.
I don't know that either he or one of his benefactors might not be funding this or financing this as well. So and he and Sam struck some sort of deal for an endorsement or something after the fact, and maybe some promises of kickbacks for his next, for Peter Dixon's next venture capitalist endeavor. Who knows, right? Anything's possible. So more to come on Down Ballot. We'll be reviewing this. We won't be on next week Down Ballot, but we will be 2 weeks from now. We will probably have a lot more information on this, so stay tuned.
Yep. Now we're going to move on to winners and losers, where if you were rooting for somebody, they probably aren't going to win. And it looks like our first story is Googlers against genocide protest outside of the headquarters of Google. Let's see. The local news has been, I've been watching some local news. The local news has been, let's just say, less than objective when covering these kinds of things. Let's see what KTVU, the local Fox affiliate, has to say.
Are outraged that Google and other tech firms are supporting Israel in its war against Hamas. KTV South Bay reporter Jesse Gary live at the scene to bring us what's happening. Jesse.
Garcia, good afternoon to you. And the demonstrators just left a short time ago. They began their day of action about 45 minutes ago here in Sunnyvale. They used a bullhorn to give their collective voices strength. They say Google's lack of response to their opposition of the company's involvement with the state of Israel and the IDF is what brought them to this point. Let's go ahead and take a look at our video. About 36 Google employees rallied in front of the company's cloud headquarters here in Sunnyvale. They took their complaints directly to the office of CEO Thomas Kurian. Demonstrators occupied his office in Building 4 here at the Cloud Complex and read a list of demands. Organizers say Google must end Project Nimbus. It's a $1.2 billion contract for cloud services that provide facial recognition, big data analysis, and object tracking, just to name a few. They say this technology can be used by the IDF in its war against Hamas that's being fought in Gaza.
We demand an end to the contract Project Nimbus. We demand that Google execs drop Project Nimbus now. And we also demand that Google protect their Arab, Muslim, and Palestinian workers who are speaking out against Project Nimbus and who have been facing harassment, suppression, retaliation at work.
Demonstrators concede there's no proof Project Nimbus is being used against civilian populace in Gaza, but they believe it could and want the contract canceled. Now, this is one of several days of action or sites today here in the South Bay, in Seattle, and also in New York City. Now, coming up later this afternoon, it's one thing to have a protest at your work site. It's another if you could face blowback or consequences for such action. We'll talk about that coming up at 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock this afternoon. For now, we're live in Sunnyvale. Jesse Gary, KTVU, Fox 2 News. Garcia, back up to you. And over.
So I think the bigger thing here is I don't think these tech companies should have got involved in this facial recognition and object tracking shit in the first place, because it's being used. It's like it's being used to like fucking arrest people and fucking persecute people. It doesn't matter where it's being used. It's certainly not being. They're like, you know, you could see press releases. Oh, well, it helps us find children who have been abducted. I'm like, really? When did that happen?
Right. And how often, and compared to, you know, how often it's being used for the purposes you mentioned. Yeah. That there is only really one application for facial recognition, right? It's surveillance.
Right.
It's all it is. It's more of the surveillance state. And it's all done in the name of public safety, right? That's all we hear. And when it's not facial recognition, it's license plate readers, or it's something more innocuous like license plate readers, or red light cameras, or any of these things, right? But they're all an invasion, right? They're all some sort of invasion of technology into our lives and capturing our private information and storing it somewhere. And in some cases, in places where humans used to do the job and should be doing the job, right? And we're getting lazy, and we're getting into more of a surveillance state and capturing more of people's private information and sharing it. God knows who. I just got a notification from my health insurance provider, right, to log on and update my profile. And part of the update was to ask me if I wanted to give consent for them to share my information, including my social security number, with third-party, vendors who might want to market me with, their new products. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Decline. Now, of course, good that I could decline, but I'll be honest, it took a couple clicks to decline, and it would have only taken one click to probably to say yes. So yeah, this shit, it's just nonstop, and our shit's getting shared constantly already. So I really don't need your cameras prying into my face and telling my friends' iPhones, showing them all the pictures that they've taken with me or of me, right? That happens. You can open up your phone now and like, hey, show me, Bob, or show me producer Dave, and suddenly all the photos I've ever taken of you pop up. It's like,
right. And like, it would have been such an easy out at the drop for these companies. They should have, if they were asked, oh, you're not doing the X, Y, and Z, this and that. And they're like, well, that sounds like the job for law enforcement or a defense contractor. We're a search engine. Like,
oh yeah, we're agnostic, right? We're just the tech. Anyone can use us, right? The tech is agnostic to what what your purposes are.
I mean, if it was open source, sure. If it was open source, then sure, anybody can use it, because the source is open. But these are proprietary products being sold. So
right, and it's completely disingenuous. But that's what they say, right? It's like, we're just selling the tech. We don't know what people want to do with it is their concern.
We just sell ricin. Right. We don't know what anybody's going to use it for.
That Ancient Orange, I mean, honestly, like, it's got a lot of applications in agriculture. So, we can't be held accountable for what people do with it. That napalm, it's actually really good for, clearing bushes and getting some corn planted.
Up next, we got this is probably, unfortunately, I think I've taken a quick look at the ballot. I think this is the most down-ballot-y story of the week. We got police doing their thing, firing projectiles at pro-Palestinian protesters at, of course, the fucking Tesla factory. Elon was probably on the horn with them. He's like, open fire.
Fire!
No, he is not that interesting.
Yeah, this is part of a day of action that also saw closures on the not the Bay Bridge, the Golden Gate Bridge, and I-880 as well, speaking of 880. So it was a pretty active day on the protest front.
Tense moments at a pro-Palestinian protest outside the Tesla factory in Fremont Monday night. Protesters being fired at with pepper balls after they tore down police fencing set up around the facility.
This Tesla factory is one of the most productive factories in the state. And so in this area, we wanted to target a big center of production and really cause an impact.
The night's protest, one of several that happened around the Bay Area Monday. Earlier in the day, protesters also shutting down the Golden Gate Bridge, as well as parts of 880. All of the demonstrations a part of the so-called A15 Day of Protest, symbolically happening on April 15th or Tax Day, and meant to cause economic disruption to those protesters believe are helping fund the Israel-Hamas war.
A lot of these companies are just thinking about their profits, and unless they're affected, they need pressure.
Monday night's protesters initially met at the Warm Springs BART station before marching down to the Tesla plant less than a mile away. While they first protested on the side of one of the factory's entrances, they then walked around the site where those tense moments occurred. After meeting police outside the gates of Tesla Monday night, protesters eventually decided to call it quits and head back home. In addition to causing economic disruption, protesters say they want the U.S. government to stop sending money and arms to Israel. Many of them telling us they're sick of politicians not listening to them.
I don't think there's anything I can say to Biden that would make him listen. He's a terrible man, and I will not be voting for him.
And even though many have been out in the streets for over 6 months now, the protesters say they're not stopping anytime soon.
But we will come out in the numbers to make sure that we are heard.
In Fremont, Tim Johns, ABC 7 News.
It's the most fucking the only place the cops used pepper balls and projectiles was in front of Apartheid Clyde's factory.
Right. Like people block the Golden Gate Bridge, right? And I didn't hear anything about, folks getting shot with pepper balls or projectiles or anything like that there, right? Now, granted, that might be a more visible spot. Maybe you don't want to pull shit like that, right? And have a bad look. But I mean, you're definitely going to get the same publicity and coverage if you do it at the Tesla factory for sure. So, yeah, good on folks for getting organized and putting pressure out there. We haven't covered a lot of the Gaza issue and the war issue for here on Downballot, simply because I think it's a bigger issue than our little local news podcast, the 9th best local news podcast in California, according to some dude. But it certainly is impacting our local politics. Everyone's talking about it, so I think it's important that we do draw attention when significant events are happening, especially in Elon's backyard. But to the protester who's not voting for Biden, I get it. I totally get it. You're more than likely just not voting then, because there's really not many other options other than the orange Cheeto dude.
Yeah. It's in California and whatever. Like I say this all the time. I really don't care really that much how any particular individual votes in the presidential race, right? It doesn't have any impact on me. But I will say that we also don't cover the conflict much on the channel more broadly. I've made my position clear on several occasions, but it's just not my beat. And other streamers are doing a great job of covering it and talking about it. And if people need any suggestions for that, you can always email me and I can point you in the direction of podcasts and live streams that do a good job on it. And my position is pretty easy. The day after the terrorist attack on the rave, that might have been a response. The second day might have been revenge. And then by the third day, it looked a whole lot like something else. So there we go.
Yeah. And thank you for that, producer Dave. I agree. I think there are people much more knowledgeable and appropriate to discuss the deeper issues at stake here than either one of us.
Yeah. I'm not a foreign policy expert, but again, it's still going on. No. This is like, come on. We're well past the response or even the revenge or even the crazy revenge stage of this. This is it's pretty clearly ethnic cleansing that's going on, and it needs to stop. And but like that's all I have to say about it. Like, I don't follow the first of all, as a disinformation reporter, I don't follow the moment by moment, because you can't trust what you see moment by moment. You have to wait till other people do good journalism on what's going on to find out what the fuck's even happening.
Is anyone still doing good journalism?
Yeah, Reuters, the AP, even the big three legacy news outlets do okay. Al Jazeera does a good job of covering the conflict. Everybody's got their biases and shit, but you can get a pretty good picture of what happened a month ago. But what happened an hour ago? Good luck, friends.
And I mean, the good journalism is never going to be able to beat the vacuum fillers, right? And social media and with the spread of information being so easy. Like, everyone thinks they're a reporter, right, with their phone. So you're not going to be able to beat the story. And that stuff is valuable,
by the way. The on the scene stuff is valuable, but it needs to be vetted and verified before.
Yes. Yeah.
Because like right after the and I don't want to digress too much, but it does have kind of a local like a local flavor to it. Right after the attack on the rave, people were sharing pictures of like burnt out cars. They're like, "Oh, look, this is what Hamas did." And I'm like, "No, motherfucker, that's a picture from a fire in Reading. I recognize that picture because we were watching people say that this very picture showed that it was a direct, like a space laser that lit the car on fire because the trees weren't on fire." And I reversed Google image searched it and I was exactly right. And I'm like, this is why wait for people you trust, and wait for, even if you don't trust the place, look and see how they verified it. Like, but like minute by minute and fucking people posting shit on Twitter. And it wasn't much better before, but it's even worse now because people got that monetization, like incentive to post incendiary shit that's false because there's ads under all that, and those people get a little bit of money on that. So like, it's people don't want to hear this, but when something is fast breaking, you kind of got to wait.
Yeah, absolutely.
So up next, we got Tesla laid off more than 10% of their workforce.
Yeah, I thought this was what the protest was about to begin with, but I guess it was about something else. So anyway, let's find out more.
Name to the long list of companies laying off employees. This time we're talking about Tesla.
Tesla's cutting more than 10,000 jobs. Let's bring in our business and tech reporter, Scott Budman, who's outside the Tesla factory in Fremont. Scott, what do you know?
Well, good evening, Jessica and Raj. Only over the last couple of months, Tesla has already seen fewer car deliveries than expected. They've seen a declining stock price, and they've brought in complaints about their upcoming Cybertruck. Just today, the company announced a 10% reduction in its workforce. A 10% cut in Tesla's workforce means about 14,000 employees. In a memo, CEO Elon Musk says the move is necessary to prepare the company for its next wave of growth. But some Tesla owners blame Musk and his tweets for driving customers away.
How toxic Elon has become to its core customer demographic, and to have a CEO who's, openly expresses white supremacist views on a daily basis, it's really hard to sell anything in that environment.
Ross Gerber invests in and drives a Tesla, but
no shit.
He hears from frustrated would-be owners regularly, especially those waiting for the company's new Cybertruck.
Damn, you can see the panel gap on that one.
Tons of money from Cybertrucks that they bought, like that should be delivered, that are just not being delivered.
Meanwhile, layoffs across the tech industry are piling up, now topping 70,000 so far this year. Biotech giant Abbott Labs says it will cut 195 jobs and soon close its Fairfield location.
There's a new craze. It's the efficiency craze.
Joint venture Silicon Valley CEO Russell Hancock points out not everyone is cutting. Many are still hiring, but focusing both on AI and pleasing investors.
No, they're running really lean operations. They're finding that helps their bottom line. It helps their profitability. It certainly makes their investors happy.
But actually, that didn't happen here at Tesla today. The layoff news was met by a declining stock price, a sell-off of about 5.5%. Live in Fremont, Scott Budman, NBC, Bay Area News.
So there's this great podcast I listen to. The name escapes me, but it's on Cool Zone Media. It is the Robert Evans Network, the same network that does Behind the Bastards. And the guy who does the podcast is great. He was describing this. He's like, so here's what usually happens. When times seem to be good, they hire up because they can say they're expanding. And then when it looks like they're not making as much money, so while they do that, their stock price tends to go up or at least kind of remain stable, right? And then when it is shown actually that they weren't actually fucking creating anything or doing anything really that was interesting or going to raise, profit or drive revenue, they then lay people off and think they're going to get a stock bounce from that. But it's that they're saying that he was saying that everybody from the big institutional investors to the retail investors, after 20 years of this being the grift, now they know what the grift is, and so it doesn't work anymore.
Right. It's just really hit me. The middle of the story hit me when Elon said, "Well, we're doing this to prepare for growth." usually when you're preparing for growth, you're adding positions, right? You're adding capacity to deal with the growth. So either he's thinking we'll just do it all with fucking AI or computers.
So the show I was talking about, by the way, somebody in chat, it's Better Offline with Ed Zitron, and it's a very good show.
Thank you.
Yeah, and yeah, you don't prepare for growth by firing people or laying people off.
No.
And I think that this has been kind of a perfect storm for Tesla, because the Cybertruck is a piece of shit. Actually, it's like not a good vehicle. It doesn't do truck stuff well. It doesn't do car stuff well. It doesn't. When the doors close, there's a panel gap. The automatic things that close, if your hand is in there, it just cuts your fingers off. Like
gnarly.
Yeah. If it crashes into something, it absolutely destroys the thing it crashes into, because there's no crumple zones. And then, so you destroy the car you ran into, and then you get fucked up too, because your car does, your car's designed to save you by the car gets destroyed so that you don't. This doesn't do that, because them stainless steel panels just don't bend. Like,
good Lord. Yeah, they look fucking butt ugly too. I'm on top of that. Like,
I drew that truck when I was 6.
Right. Forget all the. Oh, fuck. It looks like a tank you drew when you were 6, right? Like, I see one on the street almost every day, because some jackass in my neighborhood went and bought one, and I have to look at the fucking thing. It's parked outside this guy's house, and this single family home, and it's bigger than the house. It's like, it looks like an RV.
You're like, I'm not a big property value guy, but could you buy a more attractive vehicle, please?
Right. It's a tuna can RV, basically. So yeah, I can't imagine it's a very practical car too. And you're right. Like, I don't see how it does truck things at all. There's no truck bed.
Well,
right?
It's there, but it's like, yeah, you can't fit
shielded?
you can't fit a large mountain bike in it. I mean, come on.
Right. So if you try to, you have to strap it to the top. It would look pretty awkward. So yeah, well,
actually strapping a nice mountain bike to the top of it might make it look better, but also you can't get a roof rack on the fucking thing either.
But yeah, I mean, it's the real tragedy here is the fucking 14,000 jobs that are going to be lost because of Elon's hubris. So, good luck to him fucking getting employees who are dedicated when they know that their job could be, just pulled out from under them at any given time based on his whims.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, I don't think it's going to happen because his board is full of sycophants, right? But hopefully they fucking can him eventually, because he's a big part of the problem. Like, if there was somebody like a little more, I guess, deliberate running this company, and they came on hard times, you think that maybe people would be like, hey, this truck didn't work out the way they thought they were going to work out, but they were, they've been first to market with a lot of stuff, and they're, people love their Model 3s and the Tesla Model S, and they love their Model Ys, and so people could be like, they put out a shit product. It happens to everybody gets a mulligan, but not him. He don't get a mulligan because he tried to tell you that it would protect you from a nuclear war and shit. It's like, well, dude,
who knows? We haven't experienced a nuclear war yet, so let's hold off our judgment until the fallout comes.
The funny thing is, this is the SUV they have, just the Model Y. It's sort of like a crossover SUV. It's better at towing than the truck. It's like if Honda's CR-V or something was better at towing than their big Ridgeline pickup. It's so dumb.
It might be. I don't know. I'll test it out. The Good Wife has a CR-V.
Oh, very nice. Oh, I think I've seen it. Yeah. I think you showed up in it once when I lived in the 95008.
Might have. Very easy to parallel park. It's got a nice rear view camera and guidance and all that shit.
So up next, this story is actually sad for me because my favorite beer that I've ever had is from this brewery. This is the Camino Brewing Company. Also, when we did the sofa online, they sponsored our stage. They sent us what I'm going to call a lot of beer to make sure that we could do the stage. But this beer that they have, this milk stout, like the media wench does not like stout, and she was like, I would kill a fool for one of those beers. She's like, if the last one of those beers, I would kill a fool for it. So,
well, she might have to go get the last one because unfortunately, Camino is going to be closing its doors. It looks like in the near future.
Yeah, this sucks. This sucks.
It sucks
also,
the
inside of that place was real cool. We did a lot of and they were they were one of the first places to open with all the COVID regulations and follow and enforce them properly. So when we did we were dying to all meet up, like as soon as like everything got lifted, we were dying to all meet up. And that was the first place we were able to go. And everybody was masked up and, people were, sitting kind of far away from each other. And the staff was real cool and happy to see it's just unfortunate because it seemed like, I don't know what kind of bastard owns the place or whatever, but it seemed like the people that were there, other people that I met were all very, very cool. And it was just a cool place to hang out, very chill vibe. I hope something else cool goes in there, but I don't know, maybe they'll rip it down and put up condos.
Well, we're going to meet the owner here. He's going to be interviewed during the story. So looks like ABC7 has more.
After a 6-year run, Camino Brewing Co. is shutting down in San Jose.
A little overwhelmed, to be completely honest.
Co-founder Alan Kornstein said the difficult decision came down to economics. They're not seeing the volume of customers they once did pre-pandemic.
We've seen a big shift. People don't come out the way that they used to come out. And our business has primarily been driven by, our community, and the taproom sales.
Anthony Raggio with Drake's Brewing Company and a member of the Bay Area Brewers Guild wouldn't describe the beer industry as struggling, but it is changing.
You have seltzer, you have cider, you have now non-alcoholic beer. These are all vying for the same space.
At Foxtail Fermentation Project in downtown San Jose, the owners hope to bring in more than just beer drinkers. They offer fermented or plant-based foods. In March, they posted a picture of their empty space on Instagram and asked the question, what could they do better?
So we just want to open up the conversation and saying, hey, what is it that will bring you to this area to come in for lunch, during the day, not just at night.
Bravo said he's grateful for all the feedback and support.
But when you start seeing the dominoes fall from places like Anchor to our neighbors like Camino, it's scary to think that, everything that you put into a business to survive, this isn't enough. As long as everyone that's listening, like the city and the community and all that, then we can all work together to make this a really thriving place.
Back at Camino Brewing Co., Sunday was the last day it was open for service. Co-founder Kornstein hopes local brewers embrace his talented staff, and the community will visit other local tap rooms.
We don't want any more great San Jose brews to suffer the same situation. So, please just, come out, support your local breweries.
In San Jose, Lauren Martinez, ABC7 News.
This is a big hit. The other place that I really liked that shut down was Original Gravity. That place was so cool. The food was real good. The beer was good. The prices were fairly reasonable. And it's just like, I miss the South Bay, but what's in downtown San Jose anymore? Like there's bars and that's it.
Yeah. It's dwindling. And it's they're suffering. Whatever bars are left and whatever restaurants are left, like has been said, there's empty seats everywhere. And it's not just because people are, Uber Eatsing and door dashing and Grub hubbing. It's a real problem. And we got to figure out a way to spur more investment and more freedom for people to start up new businesses and try to make it more affordable for them so that they can try new things and try to experiment and try to build their audience. But it comes down to people. It comes down to people coming downtown, and especially in San Jose, right? I don't think that places like downtown Campbell are suffering as much, or downtown Los Gatos. It seems like the traffic's pretty good there, and their businesses, you don't see a lot of turnover in those businesses like you see in downtown San Jose. I mean, Santa Clara Street is like a new environment. Every time I drive down it, it seems like it's a brand new stretch of stores and shops that are just popping up or starting. And the next time I go down, it's a whole new stretch of stores, right? Because the last one failed. So, it really takes people. And there are people living downtown now in these high rises and these condos, but they're not people who are going out and wanting to experience necessarily the street life, or get a street taco, or get a bacon wrapped hot dog, or go to one of these restaurants, or go to a brewco. They are simply there to sleep and then go to their autonomous job the next day, and then travel somewhere else to get their culture when they're on vacation, right? But they certainly don't go downstairs and go out and hang out in downtown. And that all along has been, what the city and economic development fucking professionals and experts, quote unquote, have said, is that once you have the people there, if we build enough housing and we provide enough commercial space, and we have businesses and residents flocking, we'll have people flocking downtown and frequenting our businesses and creating a vibrant culture. And it just hasn't happened because the only people that can afford to live in these places are the very people who are not going to be going out and hanging out, right? So they've created this kind of a strange catch-22 where and I don't know how you get out of it. Frankly, it's almost ingrained in the DNA, right, of downtown.
I mean, it's been a long time since downtown San Jose was cracking. I mean, it's been since maybe right after 9/11. It's been 20 years. It's been 20 years that downtown San Jose has been dead. The next thing that's going to drop is it's going to be Post Street. Post Street's like the only place where there's some legacy businesses, right? Like Max has been there forever. Splash has been there almost 20 years. 55 South hasn't been there that long, but they've been there over 10 years. And I think that's going to be the next shoe that drops, because right across the way, Original Gravity went under. There used to be Temple Bar that went under.
There's definitely not enough people coming down that stretch at all. Not heads out, even on the weekend nights and the nights when they're supposed to be, to really sustain it.
I mean, the only reason that stretch is probably impervious to some of this is that there's 2 gay bars there. And even as we get older, gay men, for whatever reason, like to go out. I think it's just our culture, disco and like new wave music and like, you know what I mean? It's like our culture is going out. I don't have I'm not a fucking sociologist or whatever, although we do have one that comes on the show sometime. I may ask about that. But like, if you remember, the rave scene was incredibly queer, and like, so I think that, but like, one street with 2 gay bars isn't going to fucking prop up the downtown. You know what I'm saying?
No. And there's something to be said. I think you're absolutely right. But I also think there's something to be said that those are businesses where I talk a lot about how, we have a lot of businesses closing down and blaming the pandemic. Well, it's like, there are also other businesses that are surviving and thriving because they've evolved, changed their business style. And that's not possible in some cases, obviously. But in the case of like Splash or, gay bars, right? There's not a whole lot of those in San Jose, right? There's not a whole lot of space where, the queer community can go and feel comfortable and just let it all hang out, as it were. And so that I think those businesses will continue to thrive because they're offering something that you cannot get anywhere else, right?
The other reason Splash thrives is because they have invested. They have invested dramatically. I don't know the last time you've been in there. There's $500,000 worth of sound upstairs there. Like Meyer came out and did the fucking sound up there, and it's like the best set of headphones you've ever worn, where like the music's just loud enough no matter where you're at, but it's never ear splitting and the fucking floor is shaking. And I mean, I know that like most people in San Jose aren't clubbers or whatever, but if you're trying to go out, like, you know what I'm saying? If you are into that, you walk into that place and you go upstairs. Like, it's
you're right. You're absolutely right. So
it's beautiful. It's clean. They shut down often to like repaint. Like it is a legitimate fucking disco. I know that we don't call it a disco anymore, but it harkens back to like, the discos were not just the music. The spaces were artsy and there were nice spaces, right? Like, you think of a disco and you think of like lights and, plush couches and like a beautiful bar. You're not thinking of like a dive bar. There's nothing wrong with a dive bar. Right fucking 3 doors down from Splash is Max, which is a dive bar. And again, that's serving a different niche. On the same street, the people who don't want to go to the discotheque, or maybe before they go to the disco, they go to Max because the drinks are cheap and there's more of a community vibe there, and because they let you smoke weed on the patio. Oh, that's the biggest open secret in San Jose, friend, is that you can smoke a joint on the Max patio.
I mean,
but I mean, what's the other niche? Like the one place that's doing pretty good actually is Mini Boss. I don't know if you know about Mini Boss. They serve a niche. Sure. They serve like kind of a geek culture like video game. They got pinball machine. They serve a niche too, and they're doing pretty well over at Mini Boss as well.
Yeah, they're trying something new. They're pushing the envelope, quote unquote, however it is. I totally agree. I think that there's a lot to be said for innovation and trying new things and investing in your business, and invest in not just expecting the same old shit to work. Right. I sympathize, but with the COVID with the pandemic, but there's a lot more to it than that.
The other thing we have is the van, and I think the van is just because it's like legacy dive bar with bands, and that's a niche. There has to be a place like that, right?
Yeah.
But if you think about it, there used to be 2 or 3.
Sure. Oh no, it's fewer and farther between. Even those places, some of them burned down and won't ever reopen. Some of them just crashed and burned and are vacant. Johnny V's, I'm thinking of Cinnabar. So yeah, there's just fewer and fewer.
Well, the other place that serves a niche well and I think is very innovative is the Art Boutique. It's an all ages venue where the focus isn't on the alcohol. You can buy all kinds of cool comic books and like independent books and shirts and stuff in the front. They have a beautiful music venue in the back with slam and sound and a beautiful light show, and they're very, very community oriented. They support they'll have touring acts come through. They also have like local bands come in and people do their record release parties there. And Dan is just such like a kind and good person. And he's been doing sort of in the comic book industry for a long time. And he took a big risk by trying to combine that with like a music venue and went through all the fucking hoops he had to go through with the city to have an all ages fucking venue. And they had some problems during COVID, but also I saw they were the only ones innovating during COVID. They hit us up they didn't need much help. They got smart people there, but we were streaming, and one of his guys was like, "Hey, you got time for a call?" Just kind of asking me a little bit about streaming. They were streaming their concerts. I don't think they made a lot of money on it, but it like showed like some initiative to adapt and to continue to use the space and provide the space for the bands and the true fans, like the real kind of fans of the local bands, appreciated that. And like nobody, I don't get me wrong, like it wasn't incumbent on the Caravan to camera up, right? Their lighting is bad, like that's not that kind of place. But the Caravan was going to be fine too, because when the pandemic lifted, everybody was like, gotta go to the van, right? So, but it's dead, it's sad, but
it's the places that try to adjust and adapt and evolve that are going to survive no matter what, whether it's a pandemic or it's a recession or whatever else, right?
Or both.
Or both. And we've dealt with both since 9/11, and downtown sort of continues to decline. So who knows? It is going to take a lot of investment, and I don't know that there's the critical mass that it's going to take to do it. But we'll see. We will keep covering this on Downballot. We will come back to it.
And the other thing is, there's a. I've said this a couple times. I'm not going to lean into this. There's some people that are near the top of the entertainment industry in San Jose who you need to go away. You need to go away. You need to let someone else do some fucking shit. You need to go away. Go away.
A public service announcement from producer Dave.
That person if that person's listening to this, yes, I mean you need to go away.
Well, we do need to move on because we do have a few more stories to cover tonight.
We certainly do.
So, but we will be revisiting this a lot because it's a through line through a lot of what we do here on Downballot. So, up in San Francisco, librarians are getting pissed off, which you just gotta love to see, right?
Well, we'll see. This one's going to be a bit. I don't know. I haven't watched this story. I feel like this is going to be a bit of a mixed bag. But San Francisco library workers call on the city to hire more security. Here's from NBC Bay Area.
Librarians are usually known for trying to keep things quiet. Today, though, a large group of them made a lot of noise outside San Francisco's main library. They're calling on the city to provide more security guards after a troubling jump in unruly and potentially dangerous visitors to the library. NBC Bay Area's Sergio Quintana has our top story out of San Francisco.
What do we do? City librarians, joined by fellow members of the SEIU Service Workers Union, demonstrated outside the main San Francisco library today. They're currently trying to negotiate a new labor contract with the city, but this is not a picket over pay hikes. They want more security guards at city libraries.
Everyone is welcomed, whether you're homeless, whether you're black, whether you're white, no matter. But we also want to make sure that it's a safe place.
Librarians at today's demonstration who work at branches that do not have a dedicated guard on site offered some startling examples of things getting out of hand. Jessica Choi says she and her colleagues recently had to intervene when a man started yelling at other people at their branch.
We were just hoping he would leave peacefully before anything happened, and he did end up leaving, but on his way out he kicked a window.
At the Castro Branch Library, Nicole Germain had to try and handle what she says was a disturbed man with a weapon.
He decided to wield that weapon at a group of preschoolers sitting on the ground with their teacher.
Was he a drag queen?
Today's demonstrators called for guards at all of the city's branches to help handle these issues. At the main branch, we watched as library guards patrolled the area outside, even checking on people who seemed passed out on the curb or benches. Library staff and guards can also call in sheriff's deputies for more serious situations. Today, they responded to a medical incident inside. According to a statement from a library spokesperson, they have 37 security guards that are deployed to about 13 different branches across the system. The library also has a mobile guard patrol that can respond to specific libraries as needed. A spokesperson for the city's public library says in a statement, they've added 11 full-time safety employees, including guards and social workers, over the last 5 years. Library visitor Hope Tenga says she's seen an improvement at the main branch, where she says unhoused people often spend their day.
Yeah, they use the library for a bathroom, but at least now it's cleaner. Yeah. It used to be, I think, there was a time they were overwhelmed.
Contract negotiations with library workers are ongoing. In San Francisco, Sergio Quintana, NBC, Bay Area News.
So that's crazy, actually, that the library security was like checking on people who seem to be having like a medical problem. I mean, I don't like security guards, but library security, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know that they're equipped to handle that any more than your average cop, right?
Right, they're probably less likely to shoot the person.
That's true. Maybe they, especially if they don't have a gun, that would be tragic in itself. So, I mean, absolutely. Let's protect our librarians. Let's protect our other library patrons. But let's also, try to address the root causes and deal with people as they need to be, dealt with in their own on their own terms, and with professionals who know what they're doing. That's all I can say. Libraries are wonderful spaces where anyone is welcome, and they should be. They're community gathering places, and that includes folks who may be having an episode. Right? We need to figure out a way to, de-escalate and make sure that it doesn't become a situation where anyone's safety is threatened. So librarians certainly aren't equipped to deal with that. Police aren't equipped to deal with that. And library security guards are certainly not equipped to deal with that. So we might want to think about other ways of dealing with this.
Yeah, we'll see. But I don't, the tone from the librarians was very different, let's say, than the tone we hear from local businesses, where local businesses are like, fuck the homeless. And the librarians are like, everybody's welcome here. I just don't like the weapons.
Right.
It's a very different tone.
Right. So anyway, more to come on the librarian's contract. But obviously there's also that angle to this as well, right? They're using this as a talking point in their contract negotiations.
Well, good for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we got Get Your Shit Together, and this time we're going out to Dublin. This is Bureau of Prisons. I believe Bureau of Prisons is a federal prison, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, this is a federal women's facility in Dublin. This has been in the news quite a bit lately, but we hadn't covered it here on Downballot. But there's been quite a bit of nefarious activity happening among guards and employees at this prison, and it has come to a head, and now it looks like the prison will be no more. But we'll have more from NBC Bay Area about that.
While it has been called the Rape Club, now Dublin's scandal-plagued women's federal prison is being shut down. The Bureau of Prisons announcing that closure this morning, saying it hasn't been able to effectively address employee misconduct and other concerns at that facility. Here's NBC Bay Area's Jody Hernandez.
Mr. Garcia touched me inappropriately, went through my clothes, went through under my shirts and in my pants.
Former inmate Rolanda Ashley describes the abuse she says she endured at the hands of the former warden of Dublin's Federal Correctional Institution. Abuse, she says, that's still impacting her.
And this stuff is still haunting me. I don't trust the probation officers. I don't trust any of the staff for federal, because they failed me. They're failing people in prison.
Since 2021, 8 prison employees, including the former warden, have been charged with sexually abusing inmates. 2 have been convicted and 5 others have pled guilty. A judge appointed a special master to oversee the prison. She started just last week. But today, the Bureau of Prisons announced it's closing the facility, saying its efforts to correct things haven't worked. Quote, despite these steps and resources, we have determined that FCI Dublin is not meeting expected standards and that the best course of action is to close the facility, they said.
In other words, get your shit together.
Does not want an independent person poking around in their business because they're going to find out a lot of things.
Inmate advocates say the prison is trying to evade accountability, and they say transferring inmates is nothing more than punishing victims.
All these people who are survivors, they're being transferred to these prisons where they don't know anyone. Some of these women have been incarcerated for decades at Dublin, and they are going to be uprooted from their community and family that they have established in the prison here at Dublin.
There's no justice if you're going to just transfer the people out to the women out to another facility. That's not justice. That's not going to do anything.
Ashley says prison abuse isn't just a Dublin problem. She and others are calling for compassionate release.
We don't need to be transferred to another prison for being sexually abused. No, we need accountability.
The Board of Prisons declined to tell us if transfers have already begun. But today the judge ordered that each case must be reviewed by the special master prior to transfer. Inmate advocates say they will not stop fighting. More than 60 lawsuits are still underway. In Dublin, Jody Hernandez, NBC Bay Area News.
The fucked up thing is most of these people are going to get transferred to private prisons where the conditions, there may not be this like rampant abuse of the specific type that was going on, but where the conditions are certainly going to be worse, just because in addition to being fucking prison, somebody at the top's trying to fucking take their money off the top,
and cut some corners too at the same time, maximize profits. Yep, it's a whether it's a private or public prison, it's a what you might call a prison industrial complex, a carceral industrial complex, where we're just continuing to punish people who we should be trying to help, and folks can call it what they will. We're going to get into it with these folks in this next clip here under Recall Watch. But there seem to be a couple camps out there about how we do things. One is the cowboy philosophy, and one is the compassionate philosophy. And certainly the cowboy mentality won over at this particular prison. I've heard some real fucking, like the stuff that you heard there is like lightweight. I've heard some real horror stories from this place. There's a reason why they called it Rape Central or whatever it was. Yeah, absolutely. There's some really bad stories. I even heard a story on NPR with a woman who was calling in. Somehow she managed to call in to NPR like during their show from the prison. She's an inmate, and she was detailing the shit that was going down, and she made like the risk she was taking going on a prison call, right? That's monitored to call the news, right? I can't imagine what guards might do to her. So I really feel for them. Just getting moved, shuffled around, right? Like basically brushed under the rug. But the place, something had to be done fundamentally, but shutting it down, I think the advocates are right. Shutting it down is sort of the easy way out.
Right.
For the Bureau of Prisons. So they can say, oh, it's a clean break, but it really isn't for the victims or for the perpetrators, right? Just sort of, it helps to create some closure in the court of public opinion, but the story is going to go on, right? And the trauma is going to go on forever. So,
and not for nothing, like the people that were working at that prison, it's not like they're going to not go look for jobs at other prisons. and bring that culture with them.
Plenty of places that will hire them, even with the stigma, right, of having worked there. Absolutely. Even if some of these people are the ones who were accused, right? Guards, I'm sure there's no shortage of prisons that will take them, no shortage of police departments that will take them, because as we've discussed before, it's a pervasive environment. It's a pervasive culture.
And just real quick, other countries do this a dramatically different way. I've seen in Northern Europe, the cells, they look like studio apartments, and the inmates have almost like a co-op, like a dorm almost, and in the middle is like a kitchen. They cook, like it's you can't leave, but it's like you're the punishment is that you can't leave. They're not punishing you on top of the fact that you can't leave. And I mean, I imagine that this is for people who, are nonviolent offenders or whatever for the most part. But the thing is, most federal crimes are nonviolent, right? Most violent crime is a state crime. Like you have to be you have to be engaged in interstate commerce, crossing state lines, doing stuff you shouldn't be on the internet, whatever, to get busted by the feds or some kind of RICO stuff. But most of the violent crime is, you got your SA, your murder. Most of that stuff is, assault and battery, assault with a deadly weapon. Most of that, in fact, almost all of that stuff is not a federal crime. So these are mostly non-violent criminals, and they're mostly drugs, probably, right?
Yeah, and white collar, right?
So that's wild.
Yes.
Anyway, we're going to move on to Downballot / Recall Watch. It looks like I was skeptical that they'd be able to gather the signatures to recall Pamela Price, because like I said, when people were outside of the local grocery stores here where I live, and they're like, recall the Alameda County DA, the most common response was, who's the Alameda County DA?
DA. Yeah, no, and I was skeptical simply because they had submitted so many, and a cursory, one of the initial, what they do is they select a random sample of 2 or 3% of the signatures, and they check those, and if the percentages say that it would pass muster, if they counted all of them, then they actually let it go through. If it doesn't hit that threshold, then they have to count all of them. And they submitted so many, like double what they needed, that I had to suspect that they might come close to not getting there, and they really didn't get very far beyond what they needed. They submitted they'll go into the story here, but they submitted so many signatures, and they really didn't have a good percentage of valid signatures. So it shows me that they didn't really check those before they submitted them as well, which you really should do. So anyway, we'll have more on the story here. It looks like we're going to have something on the ballot. We don't know when. It could be a special election. It could be November, but more to come from NBC Bay Area.
New at 6 tonight, a major development in the effort to recall Alameda County District Attorney Pamela Price. The county is now confirming it has enough signatures on the recall petitions that are valid to put the recall on the upcoming ballot. Last month, Save Alameda for Everyone submitted over 123,000 signatures to the county. The Alameda County Registrar of Voters confirms tonight that more than the necessary 73,000 needed to move the recall effort forward are valid. They said they will certify the results of the board at the Board of Supervisors meeting on April 30th.
That was a quick hit. Do you know the number
of what they eventually had? I don't. They haven't announced how many were actually valid, but they had to be at least that 72K number, right? And out of 128, that's not a very good percentage, to be honest with you. If it was close at all to that threshold. Having worked on these campaigns before. And like I said, if you're investing that much time and money, anyone worth their salt who's doing the signature collection is also doing verification for you and letting you know the percentage of what they have, right? That's valid, so that you can make an assessment as to whether or not you want to keep moving forward. And it's worth moving forward. So yeah, they should have done that work in advance and been ready for that. So it just shows me they're disorganized and they're headstrong, and they're just looking to. This is all about just retribution and for losing an election and impatience and not willing to really stake a claim and run in a legitimate election, right? Get a candidate to run against a DA Price in the next election. They don't want to They don't want to deal with that. They want to basically use the system to get what they want and to overturn the will of the voters. And that's just like with Chesa Boudin. It's a fucked up situation, but it's entirely legal, and that's the problem.
As a point of reference, up in Shasta County, they didn't hire anybody. It was a grassroots movement of not even that many people collecting signatures to recall one of the supervisors. Their recall ended up not going through. It was very close, but they didn't hire anybody, and over 90% of their signatures were verified. I think it was closer to 95% because they had volunteers out there who actually cared about doing it right, and people would come up and they'd bust out a fucking map. When somebody gave their address, they'd bust out a map on their phone and be like, "Oh, you are in the district," and they'd be like, "Are you sure that you're registered to vote?" Like they would make sure with every person that they were meeting the fucking requirements. Sure. And this wasn't some company doing it. These people weren't being paid at all, much less per signature or whatever it was. They were like hanging out in front of like community centers, businesses that were, friendly to their cause or, maybe ambivalent, and were like, "Well, I don't care. Yeah, you can collect signatures out here. You're not going to bother anybody." And, it's a much smaller number that they had to collect, but it was, a group of motivated citizens who, it wasn't about getting as many fucking signatures as possible. It was about getting above the threshold and making sure that all the signatures are valid. And they did a fantastic job.
Mm-hmm.
And it's 100%. Just a really interesting contrast because we always talk about what a shit show Shasta County is. But in this case, and I have my biases here. Some of those people are regulars in our chat, and some of those people even give us money, like the people that were out there. One of them is an occasional co-host around here. And, it's interesting to see that just the difference there, even though the recall didn't go through, those people did a bang up job. They did a great job. And once the recall didn't go through, they were like, "Oh, well, I guess we lost." They fucking moved on like normal people. Right.
Yes. And kudos to them, right? But and sometimes you get, you're all the time, you get what you paid for, right? You can pay the biggest firms, but you're not going to get the quality you're going to get from people who are dedicated and passionate about the cause, getting up there and doing it. And I think that makes a lot of sense that it happens in Chester one way or the other, one side or the other, right? There's a lot of really passionate people. And on this issue, like you said, who is the Alameda County DA, right? There's just not a whole lot of passion around this issue right now, except from the core group of people who are trying to put it forward. Right. So I don't think it's going to be successful, depending, not even depending on when it is. I just don't think it's going to be a successful endeavor. And I hope that there's some blowback on these folks and others who are just trying to use the system again to get what they want politically instead of legitimately winning elections and winning public opinion, right? And winning public will. Because that's what fucking democracy is supposed to be about.
And now up next, we got two more stories here. We're a little long, but luckily it's not the situation before where there was a fucking band setting up in my studio while we were trying to finish the show. So it's okay if we go a little long now on Tuesdays. We've got Mayor Ed 209 and other San Jose city leaders want community feedback on unhoused encampments.
There you go.
A South Bay neighborhood says a growing encampment has been putting their health and safety at risk for more than a year. Now, after our reporting, the mayor and other community leaders are taking action. NBC Bay Area's Natalie Vera joined Mayor Matt Mahan and his team as they canvassed Willow Street today. It's a story you'll see only on NBC Bay Area.
Until tomorrow.
San Jose city leaders want to hear from businesses and neighbors on Willow Street.
We've gotten a lot of complaints about the encampment at Willow and Lalong from both the small business owners here as well as the residents.
We've been reporting on those complaints for over a year now. Neighbors saying they are seeing human feces on those streets, vandalism and burglaries.
Ha empeorado en los últimos años, sí.
Yajaira Campos sums it up, saying it's gotten worse over the last few years.
Peligramos en que estén pasando a veces
and for street vendors like Anita, she says they're constantly worried about getting robbed or run-ins with sometimes intoxicated people from the nearby encampment. So city leaders are inviting community members to voice their concerns at a meeting next Wednesday. The mayor says the city wants to find a solution for the families here on Willow Street, but also for the unhoused community.
We don't know how many people are at that specific encampment, but we have over 4,000 people in the city of San Jose who are living unsheltered.
This is a real challenge. We don't have enough safe places for people to go, and we want to work with the community to expand places where people can be, from permanent affordable housing to more immediate solutions like safe sleeping sites.
Mahan says the city is making some strides, from investing in long-term affordable permanent housing to more basic forms of shelter, like modular units.
And we were building a waiting list that got up to about 400 people, and we had to stop taking names.
Back on Willow Street, small business owners simply hope the city can find a way to keep their neighborhood clean and safe. Reporting in San Jose, Natalie Vera, NBC Bay Area News.
By the way, that community meeting is happening Wednesday, 6 p.m. at Assyrian Church of the East.
So, I don't know. So I don't know the lay of the land very well. I know Willow Street goes through Willow Glen, but that doesn't seem like it's the Willow Glen. I don't know if you went when I think it was actually your idea many years ago. We had a dinner in Willow Glen, I think for my birthday. I think you, me, and Chip and Good Wife and maybe the Media Wench or somebody was there. But that's not the part of Willow Glen we're talking about, right?
It's adjacent. It's right near, basically near the 87 overpass over Willow, right? So that if anyone's been down there before, gotten up 87 and gone to Willow Street, you've seen this encampment. It's very obvious. It's been there for a while, and it's nothing new. So this is just more Ed 209 performative art bullshit of we're going to hold a town hall and listen to community concerns, and then we're going to go back to City Hall and do what we want to do, right? It's not really a town hall to hear concerns and get feedback and get suggestions. It's a town hall to tell people what they're planning to do, right? And what they're going to do with our tax dollars and and to get their support for what he wants to do. And the irony is that all the things he's proposing, like safe, slave sleeping sites, another phrase for sanctioned encampments, which people like, my former boss at City Hall, myself during my, ultimately doomed campaign for city council, things that I espoused like 8 years ago, right, are suddenly now commonplace because, the problem is so bad that people in Almaden have noticed, right, that people in West San Jose are starting to notice, that people in Willow Glen are starting to notice, and we got to do something about it if we want to get reelected, right, because those people vote. So it's sad to see that we've wasted all this time and only now are coming to grips with the fact that we have a crisis on our hands.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this, whatever. I don't think that there's any actual political will to solve these problems. In fact, I think that starting to get the idea that this problem existing is good for people like Matt Mahan. Because it gives him something to talk about. Because otherwise, it doesn't seem like he says fucking a whole lot about a whole lot of other shit, does he?
No, but the downside is that the very folks that will buy into that and buy into his bullshit and buy into his next gen new wave dance craze. I'm going to fix it all, a quick fix. If he doesn't, right, in 4 years from now, when he's been reelected now, in another 4 years, if he hasn't made progress. That base is so fickle. The NIMBYs and all those fuckers, they'll turn on him in a second if there's another alternative, right? If there's something else, it's not City Chavez or some sort of labor, prop. If there's a legitimate, alternative, they'll turn on this guy in a second because he's nothing to them, really. He himself, it's his agenda that matters to them, right? It's them. It's keeping their street clean and getting the homeless out of their neighborhood, to stop doing crimes in their neighborhood, right? And stop leaving their poop everywhere in their neighborhood. I've seen just as many of their dogs leaving poop on the fucking sidewalk as humans from this encampment. So, and when I say their dogs, I mean the people from Willow Glen who are walking their dogs past this encampment.
Those are purebreds, sir. Purebreds.
Correct. Yeah, and even my dog was guilty of that from time to time.
Do you know how expensive that dog is? Do you know how much that poop is worth?
It's incredibly valuable. They should be trying to save it instead of letting it just sit there on dookie on the street. But anyway, we'll see if he is able to, Mayor Ed 209 is able to make any progress. Because if he isn't, people are going to notice on both sides. We're all going to hold him accountable for it. And even his own supporters are going to hold him accountable, I think, for it. But again, it comes back to what's the alternative? And if no one else is out there willing to try to do better or do it differently, he'll just, the status quo will prevail.
That is correct. What do we got for another thing?
Well, I haven't really dug too deep into this, but it seemed pretty funny, and the logo looked like poop. So.
All right, very good. Well, we'll let the news sort it out, or no.
Okay.
New at 11, a San Francisco artist says the art at the city's new downtown food hall looks very familiar. A lot like his, and he doesn't think it's an accident. NBC Bay Area's Alyssa Gord caught up with the artist, who says he is disappointed and planning to take action.
I really try to strip down to the core elements of what make a face.
It's a concept and a design San Francisco artist Tim Lehan has been working on for more than a decade.
Sometimes I put the mouth on top of the nose, or, all out of order.
He's called it making faces. His technique includes bold lines and soft edges. Lehan says he was blindsided this week when friends started bombarding him with photos of the branding at San Francisco's new downtown.
Okay, yeah, that's his fucking style. Yeah.
Opened by the operator of the IKEA next door.
It looked almost exactly like something I would do or have done for the New Yorker, for example. I did a whole series of these illustrations for them.
Lehan says these are designs that he is widely known for. He plans on taking legal action. We spoke with Bay Area copyright attorney Larry Townsend. He said that artists can make a strong copyright case if they can show that the other party involved had ample access to their art. As for Salu Hall, a spokesperson for IKEA said in a statement, quote, "This matter was just brought to our attention and we are looking into it." As for Lehan, he is particularly disappointed to see this from a project positioned as celebrating San Francisco and revitalizing downtown.
And it's supposed to be this grand thing, or like, oh, the community. And it's like, I'm part of the community. And like, you're actually damaging my reputation by ripping off my work like this.
In San Francisco, Alyssa Gord, NBC, Bay Area News.
Yeah, that's the same art. I mean, it's not the same art.
Yeah.
I hope they blame it on an AI. That would be the most fucking down ballot thing that could happen here, is they just blame that shit on the AI that did it. They're like,
oh, I hope they follow up on it. Yeah, that. Well, it wasn't us. It was the computer.
Yeah, just blame it on the fucking computer. It'll be fine.
Yeah, but that's absolutely this guy's work. It's really, that's super shady that IKEA is doing it. It's corporate America. People who could afford to license, his work. If they're like, oh, someone thought, oh, this is really fun stuff. This could be really cool. Let's work with this guy. Let's have him. Let's pay him. Let's bring him on staff. Even let's have him develop a whole artistic theme for our hall. Right.
Right, because they had to have paid somebody to rip him off. Right.
Or someone to do the thing. Much more cheaply by just pilfering the imagery, right? But yeah, it makes much more sense, I think, and in the long run, and be a better look if you brought the guy in and appropriated his art, right, and put his signature, like Salu Hall by whatever his name is, right? Everyone makes out in that situation. You look good, the artist looks great, and gets paid for their work, and maybe gets even a bigger gig out of it, and
maybe in 2 or 3 years you contract a different local artist, and now there's a cycle going on.
Ooh, yeah. Like changing spaces, absolutely. Or new locations, right? And getting artists from, how about this? Getting artists from that neighborhood, from that community, like, immediately around the place to do it too. Might engender community support for your business, people coming to your business from the neighborhood because they know about this and it feels like home to them, right? As opposed to some bland corporate, eatery.
Right. I mean, that's what they were going for, obviously, was that it had this particular kind of style to it. The thing that sucks here is I think that the most likely outcome is they just settle with him. And sure, he gets money, but like it'd be better for him to get the gig, right?
Absolutely. Especially,
because he's an artist. It's not like he doesn't want to do art. So.
Yeah. And guaranteed, most artists, could give two shits about like they mentioned like intellectual property law. They really don't want to go through this process of like suing and paperwork and all this crap, right? Just to defend themselves. More than likely they would much prefer to just to collaborate and figure out a way to and get approached to license their shit, right? They don't want to deal with all this crap. So I sympathize with the guy on multiple levels.
It seems like he's a fairly successful artist, but that doesn't mean he has the wherewithal for this kind of lawsuit either. Like the financial wherewithal.
God, no, just because he's like a working artist and he's surviving doesn't mean he's making like Rockefeller money or a profit at all, really. He's just, he could just be making things, come together, pencil out, right? And something like this is certainly not in his budget. So his annual budget.
Well, that's the show. You want to read the show out like you always do?
Absolutely. Well, hopefully my throat will hold out. Been dealing with a cold for a little while here. But anyway, thank you as always for joining us here on Down Ballot. We do this show almost every Tuesday at 7:30 Pacific. We will be off next week. It'll be just public comment with producer Dave. So do enjoy that and tune back in. But we'll be back in a couple weeks. We'll have an update on the CA16 recall and all sorts of other endeavors that we've been following here. In the meantime, we remind you that you should get vaccinated. You should wear a mask in public. Pants are entirely optional. We're going to play a little audible smoke here to lead you into the red light portion of the show. We hope you stay tuned for public comment. And I hope Bruce Dave and everyone else out there has a lovely week. Peace out.
Time to get the party started. Pick up my phone just to check and see who's calling. Dress up real nice for the ladies at the bar, and I'm driving in my car just to get to where they are. Here at the local scene is where I plant my feet. It's where I smoke my cigarette and I hold my drink. I look at all my friends, they're all blazing greens. Here at the front of the stage, waiting for MTV. Where are those guys who's standing next to me with a pipe in his hand, ready to blaze for me? About 5 minutes later, we're all singing Queen. I get the fuck up on stage and rock the scene. Yeah, we do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. I turn and head back to the bar for a refill, man, because you know where we are. We're headed out to the car to smoke another one and another one. Now just when the magic starts kicking in, I hear relapse playing, you know it's time to head in. Alright everybody, now it's time to grab a new drink. Spark it if you got it and then pass it to me. Yeah, we do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. Last up on the bill for the show tonight is Down and Dirty at 5, so we're headed outside to spark up another joint. Now who's got my lighter? Stoner E, of course, shouldn't you be inside? I'm all up in this bitch, being who I gotta be. I'm fucked up like the U.S. economy. The truth is that I don't think logically. Stoner E take you on a psychedelic odyssey. Now inside motherfuckers is rocking me, and outside shit we smoke a lot of broccoli. Rocky the roller, yo, that sexy girl be jocking me. Ain't too drunk to fuck, but I'll probably do it sloppily. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy the band. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Molly say that he like jamming, and he hope he like jamming too. Well, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Yes, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Well, Bob Marley said that he like jamming, and he hope he like jamming too. Well, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Yes, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want, and what we want to do, what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. We do what we want to do, what we want is to jam. So sit back.